And I'm going to go live on Facebook. And what is your clutter legacy birthday Burks? Share to the Earth Day Burks 2021 Facebook page. And here we go. Okay, it says we are live on Facebook. So welcome back, everyone, to Earth Day Burks 2021. We are very happy this morning to bring you Miss Vali Heist. We are excited to talk about this morning something called our clutter legacy, which we'll get more into, obviously, since that is the name of the session. But Vali, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your business and how it started.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be a part of this. It's so much a part of my business, and what I do is being green and being conscious of the environment and always talking about those issues with my clients as I work with them. And I started my business 15 years ago. I'm celebrating my 15th year. So yay!
Wow, congratulations. That's a great milestone.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I own what is called the Clutter Crew. I'm a certified professional organizer, which means that I've been doing this a long time. And then I take a test that tells them what I'm talking about and all that kind of stuff. So it just is time and so much of what I do and who I am as a person. So I'm thrilled to have this business to live my life and to help my clients live their lives. So thank you so much for inviting me too, Courtney.
It's great work. I'm glad that there are people out there that do this because I think people feel so helpless. So it's nice to have someone help guide them. And you're very welcome. I'm happy to have you back in the realm of letting people know that this exists and that they can ask for help. So I just want to kind of go over our intro that you came up with. Sounds good, so people know what to expect from this session. So the pandemic has forced us to remain in our homes and be surrounded by all of our stuff 24/7. So it's also forced us to reevaluate what is essential in our life and what isn't. So with all of the deaths surrounding the pandemic, many of us have come to the realization that if something happens to us, we can't take it with us. So what will our clutter legacy be for those we leave behind? And these are really big questions and they're heavy. And I'm glad we have you to help us navigate through it. I guess we'll get started. So we're going to just explore how to discern what things are essential in our homes and what isn't, what things are just simply emotional attachments. And we'll also talk about prioritizing the value of the things that we own, and simplifying our homes and how this can help us kind of live a more peaceful life in general. So first off, because this is kind of a term that you've coined when we were coming up with this term, what do you think? How would you define clutter legacy? What does that mean to you?
This actually doesn't exist in the dictionary. So I define your clutter legacy as what do you leave behind when you finally do pass? What's the stuff you're leaving in your home? What's the amount of work that has to be done to clean out the home or take care of what has to be done, because someone's got to do it. There are some clients or folks that don't think about it and don't care to think about it, and someone else is going to take care of it, and that's fine. Those aren't the people that call me. The people that call me are saying, my son or daughter or my family has said, if I don't start to take care of some of the stuff in my house, they're going to put it all in a dumpster. And that's what really gets them thinking, oh my goodness, I can't picture my stuff in a dumpster.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. And I have put a lot of beautiful things in not beautiful things, but things in dumpsters that could have been donated or given to someone else before it became crap, before it was ruined either from mold or heat or obsolete lessons that no one's going to want it anymore. So, oops, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So why does this happen? Why do we have so much stuff? I think what happens is we spend our whole first half of our life collecting stuff. Not necessarily collecting, but it's life. We start to begin to add to our homes, and then all of a sudden, halfway through, we're wondering, where did all this stuff come from? That's quotes from my clients. I'm not sure where all this stuff came from, and it's it's through the front door, and it's never too early to start thinking about, gee, how do I maybe get a handle on this before it gets too much? And our house is basically full of delayed decisions. I know I don't need this thing, but I don't know what to do with it. So, or I know I need this, but I'm not sure where to put it to find it later. Those are the kinds of things that houses are full of delayed decision-making on. Gee, I love this from my, it was a gift that I got 20 years ago. Jeez.
Man, you're busy. It's like Grand Central Station over there.
I got this 20 years ago from my my best friend, but I don't like it anymore. Now what do I do with it? That kind of thing. So it's it's hard to sometimes take care of those things and make those choices.
Absolutely.
That's the hardest thing, is making the choices. I'm going to throw my phone in the hallway.
Okay, good. That's fine. Thanks. Of the joys of live streaming.
Reality of live TV.
Yes.
Okay. So, and I think a lot of people are not looking at it and not concerned with it, and that's fine. But I am of the ilk that, gee, we need to really start making a point of looking at our stuff and being as green as possible, and thinking on this birthday, how are we going to make this a better planet before we leave it?
Absolutely. And do you think you could talk a little bit about kind of the societal norms and, how the American dream and consumerism and how that has kind of fed to this issue that a lot of people have now?
Yeah, I believe that most of what we have is decided for us by advertising, retailers, making it easy to shop 24/7. No one has to wait to buy anything anymore. We used to have to wait to get the car or to get the money, so now it's just a matter of get on the computer or pick up the phone, and now I can buy whatever I need right now. I don't have to wait. So discerning and making decisions. We don't have to wait anymore, and that's not necessarily a good thing. We consume without being discerning, as discerning as we used to be. And research has shown us it's not making us happier. It's not the most unhappy we've been right now than we've ever been since the 50s. And we have more than we ever have had. So, it used to be our parents would save things for us, and then we would look for those things when they would pass them down to us, and we couldn't wait to get either their beautiful furniture or their china or whatever. And now there's such a generational difference. When I go talking to folks about how many people have their kids want their stuff, and everybody's like, no, my kids don't want my stuff. And I saved all this stuff for them, and now they don't want the stuff.
That's hard to take, I think, for the parents. It's kind of like a little hurtful sometimes.
It is hurtful, and I but ask them to try not to take it personally, because it's not them. It's just the way the society is now. It's more fast. It's disposable. They can buy anything they want. if they don't like the china they have or the dishes they're using, they're just going to go and donate them and go get something else. Nothing kind of stays for too long anymore. There's too many beautiful things out there to buy.
Right. There's a lot. It's kind of overwhelmed, and it's kind of like a shift in values, right?
Yeah, you don't have to make do with that same set of dishes that you've had to do with. You can go out and find another set 24/7. So that's just one example. And, that has to do with electronics. It has to do with everything that we consume. Along with that, we consume it, and then we don't get rid of the old stuff sometimes. We either put it in the basement or the attic or out in the garage to make a decision later, delay the decision on what to do with it. Maybe somebody else will need that because it's usable. It's still good. It's still good. So I don't know what to do with it. And I don't want to make that decision to let it go. And a lot of times people don't know where to start.
Right. And then that's a good segue. So people do need to make the change of mindset has to happen first, right? Like nothing will move forward without that. So the way you think about your stuff has to be different from how it is currently before you can move ahead and try to make some moves to get things out of there. And it has to do with lifestyle too. So what is your advice for people that want to get started? Like what's the first step that's logical for people?
I think for people that still have families, young children, or even teenagers, and it's starting now. It's starting with their children, and if we buy something, we need to take care of what we still have. Are we letting go of something? Is this replacing something we already have? And I can tell you when my son was growing up, and if he said to me that he would like, he could use some new long sleeve shirts, I said, well then, you know what, go through your closet and pull out a couple long sleeve shirts that you're not wearing anymore. Because I knew he had some, but if he's not wearing the ones that he has and wants new ones, we need to let go. We don't have a lot of room. We have a very small farmhouse. So and then it was very easy for him to say, yes, these are the things I want to let go of because I do want something different. So I got him in that mindset very early. We let go of things in his room after birthdays and after Christmas, because then he had new things to say, gee, this is what I really like. Now I'm ready to get rid of this. I'm not going to play with this or wear this. So it was a mindset. We built it into our life, and we knew who we were donating it to. And I would take him along to donate it to neighbors or friends, to the Goodwill, to got him used to those places. And then as an adult, he would shop at the Goodwill. He would donate to the Goodwill. He would recycle. So it's getting them started early. Now, if you're 50, 60, 70s, and now you have a house full of stuff, now what do I do? And it can be very, very overwhelming. And I get that. I totally understand. But if you really are wanting to say, I got to start, I want to do something, then there are plenty of people, plenty of places that could use your stuff, that they could take them, donate them. I'll talk about this at the end though too, but I have a handout on the website called, it's Donate and Recycle Your Crap in Berks County. So, and my website is thecluttercrew.com. And that list is two-sided. Every place that I use to donate, recycle my clients' things. And that's, and you make it part of your life too. Yes, it takes work. It takes a rhythm in your home to have a place to put the stuff you want to recycle, and then you take it out. It's a process. So, but a lot of my clients who are ready to downsize to the point of leaving their home, they work it into their lives as kind of like a part-time job. We spent the first 40 years gathering our stuff. Now the next 40 years or whatever, have to be spent letting it go because it's still good. We just don't need it anymore. You know, we can donate it, recycle it, sell it. You know, those are all the places that I have on that handout, you know, from Facebook Marketplace to recycling up at the Berks County Recycling Center.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it really is about that. It's a lifestyle to be able to keep up with that continued maintenance, like stuff maintenance, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you're already like bogged down, you just have to pick somewhere to start. What about if you're, say you're my generation and you're trying to, and thank you, Misty, for your question on Facebook. We did get a question on Facebook. Trying to convince maybe like the older generation, she called her family's generation hoarding, and trying to shift that mindset if it's not already there.
Yeah.
So, and analyzing and healing what was needed for people to get through that process.
Trying to convince parents who are 60, 70, you know, that they need to start downsizing their house is a very difficult thing to imbue in them, because some of them, it's not even on their radar. And some of it's so emotionally attached. They're so nostalgic about their stuff. It all seems very important. It's still very important to them. And these aren't the people that call me, because when they call me, they say, I'm ready, just don't know how to do it. But the people that don't call me, it's just not on their radar. And a lot of their children, young, you know, adult children are, why can't my parents get it? Well, I have to say, I have to be honest that some of them aren't going to get it. And it's going to be fighting with them about downsizing their stuff before they leave their home isn't maybe the best way to spend your time with them. What the important things are is, where do they have the important documents? Let's make sure we've got that taken care of. You know, where's your will? Where's your POAs? Where are the things that we need to know if something happens to you and I don't have you to ask? So where's the important stuff? Where's the pictures of the family that you want us to make sure that we still have? Is there something that you want us to know about, like a piece of art, a piece of pottery, a piece of grandma's something or other? Those are the things, you know, what are the items that are really precious at this point? Not everything is precious. Not everything is essential. I'm so sorry to say, but it's just not. And but if you can talk with your parents about what is, and they can point out what's important that they want you to know, and try not to discount the things that they think is important, because when they start to list the things, you think, oh, that's just not on my radar. That's just not important to me, but it might be important to them.
And then at least they know, at least you know where everybody's at.
Yeah, at least you know, and at least you have, you know, there's a couple handouts on my website about downsizing and the important things to ask for that your parents make sure that you have and make sure you have kept track of. But having them clean out and really start to go through things, that's mentally and physically exhausting. And if they're not ready for that, or even have it in their head of how to do this, letting go of their stuff, throwing their things out that might be trash or might be ready to donate, that they're not ready to donate. It's not always the best way to spend your last years with your parents. Knowing that you know where the important things are, the essential things are, is probably half the battle. You know?
Really, yeah. And when we've talked about this topic before, which we have, I think it was a good tip that you really suggested, you know, to keep in mind, especially if you're working with your parents or the older generation, to say, you know, you didn't accumulate all of this stuff overnight, like it's taken 50 years. So
Yeah.
it's impossible to get rid of it all in one fell swoop. Like you kind of just have to break it down, maybe set some time aside. It can be like completely and utterly overwhelming in all senses of the word, you know, emotionally, nostalgic. So to break it down.
Yeah, it has, like, you know, I always say, you know, how do you eat an elephant? A bite at a time. You know, their house is a huge elephant, especially if they've been there 40, 50 years, 30 years. It's so full of stuff that just saying, let's go, we got to clean out is just, you know, mind boggling. So starting maybe with one room, pulling the things out that are important, and maybe letting everything else go, whichever is easiest, pulling away the stuff that has to go or pulling the stuff that has to stay, whichever seems easiest at the time is, but yeah, telling, accumulating that stuff. Our parents weren't necessarily, just throwing the word hoarder around is dangerous because it is a diagnosis. It is for folks who are definitely don't want to let go of a thing. Okay, I don't work with hoarders because I'm not psychologically trained to do that. But our parents kept things because they might need it later because they grew up in a different time.
Absolutely.
And everybody says, oh, I'm just like my parents. I just don't let go of anything because I might need it later. Well, the reason they kept stuff is very different than the reason we have stuff. Their stuff, they were keeping bread bags because they actually would use some of them for something else. They didn't have plastic Ziploc bags. They didn't have things that we have right now. And they didn't shop 24/7. And they didn't have access to grocery stores as like we do. So they were limited. That's the reason they might need it later, because they didn't have the ability like we do to shop and buy. Everything's so cheap now. Everything's so cheap. So we can get anything, you know. So we're not the same as our parents. We may have just as much stuff, but the reason they kept it is very different from the reason we kept our stuff. And they're not, it's not going to be easy for them. It's not going to be easy at all.
Yeah, and I also, on top of that, with all the emotional connections and nostalgia, I know you mentioned that it should be a trip down memory lane, not memory blame, and that stuck out to me. So can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, when I work with clients, when I work with a husband and a wife, or you know, folks that have lived together for a very long time, and they are both on the same page. Now, let me say right at the start, there are so few couples that are on the same page when it's time to start downsizing and letting go. I call them unicorns because they really, truly are not prevalent in my business. You know, when I work with clients who, I generally work with one, it's either a husband or a wife or a widow or a widower, or single people. It's rarely a couple. Now, when it is a couple and they're on the same page, it's a delight. They're both ready to do it, but then we want to remind everybody that we're not going to blame each other for holding on to something. You know, why do you still have that? You know, you don't use that anymore. And none of this memory blame stuff. We just want to be, you know, looking at happy memories. We'll go down memory lane and that's fine, but we're both on the same page. We know things have to go, but let's just do it together and make the decisions that will benefit everybody.
Right. Leave that negative judgment part of the piece of it out of there.
It's past, it's done. It's, you know, there's no point in going over it again because it is what it is now.
Right. That's true. So what exactly, can you explain a little bit about the actual process? So when you work with clients and actually taking people through the decision-making process and what that kind of logistically looks like?
Okay. I think when my clients call, they do know we need to let go. Let's say we want to downsize our home. First of all, maybe they want to stay in their home, but we know we need to downsize it before we can stay here safely, or it's just a little too crowded. The floors are either, there's stuff around that we can't walk easily, or they have caregivers that come in and say, you know what, we need to eliminate a few things to make it safer. So what we do is we start, room by room, and we go the rooms that are most important, most used, and decide, sometimes it's piece by piece, but sometimes it's category by category. This is the stack of newspapers, that kind of thing. I think a lot of my clients are just looking for permission. Is it okay to let this go?
That's a huge piece, right? Yeah. They need somebody to just say, yes, you can, that's fine.
That's fine. Or I had a client once say, these end tables, my husband and I bought these end tables when we first got married, but can I let them go? And I said, well, do you still like them? And she said, no, I really don't. They're not my taste anymore. I said, then yes, it's okay to let them go. And she said, you know what a relief that is. I felt guilty about letting them go. It's like, I remember us picking them out. I remember us, putting them in the living room. So giving them permission to say, yeah, it's okay. Somebody else is going to give a new life to your things, if indeed it's not broken or I don't know, dried out or full of mold. Somebody's going to still use your stuff.
It can live on, like it can bring someone else joy. So it's like you should take pride in that.
Absolutely. So giving them an idea of where to take things, and yes, it's okay. No, you don't have to keep that gift that your best friend gave you 10 years ago and you loved it then, but you look at it now and you think, it's not my taste anymore. It's okay to let that go. Regifting is okay. Donating is okay. It's all your stuff. So it's okay to let it go.
Yeah. And so it's very much like shedding layers, right? You talked about that, and also just the process of kind of analyzing each thing, kind of both, practically and emotionally.
Yes.
And saying, okay, well, where, and then the next part is like, where does it go? So can you talk a little about where, or like the different segments of like, okay, well, this one I'm keeping, this one I'm not sure yet, this one's going to be, yes. Can you walk us through that a little?
I'm going to, I know there's somebody who could use this. And by the way, if you ask someone if they want it and they say no, then no is no.
Respect that decision.
That decision, and then let it go to somebody else who actually will say yes and will want it. So yeah, you have a donate pile, you have a give to a friend or relative pile, you have a trash. Some things are trash, truly trash. We don't want to put more in the landfill than we have to. Absolutely not. But if it's truly trash, then just throw it out. Don't feel guilty about it. Doesn't owe you anything. Sometimes things are just trash. And then there's the keep pile. And then, so it's kind of, but once you get started, once you get on a roll, I can't tell you how many people say, oh, now I got it. I'm on a roll. We know what we need to do. You go room by room, and it gets easier and easier.
The momentum picks up, right? And even the decision-making probably becomes easier because you're used to it and more comfortable with it, right?
Yes, your mind is in that mindset, and you realize, okay, I can make these decisions. I can decide that something isn't. And that all said, I do say to my clients, err on the side of keeping it. And people are kind of surprised at that, but I don't want anybody to have any any feelings of regret about letting go of something. So if you really are sure, then just keep it, because you can always let it go later on. And that happens a lot.
Yeah, like you don't have to decide today. Like maybe it's that decision process where you're like, I'm not sure, and you're not sure for a little while. And then one day you're like, you know what? Don't need it.
Yeah, no, and I'll call back, or I'll come back a week later and they'll say, you know what, I thought about that. That's ready. It's time to go. Invariably 99% of the time they're ready to let it go because we've talked it through. They just weren't ready to see it leave the house. So that's, you just have to give people time. And when they really get on a roll, get up that momentum going, then they understand that it's a process. It is a process. And like you said, Courtney, it didn't take a year to get all this stuff. So it's not going to take, it's going to take a long time or some effort, a lot of effort to let it go. So if you can build it into your life from the beginning, then it's not going to be as hard when the time comes to downsize a lot more than just weekly stuff.
Yeah. And do you find, is there certain categories of stuff that people have a harder time with? Like, you know, you have your kind of things that are classified as like maybe like potential family heirlooms, depending who you talk to. And then you have like books, and you have clothing, and you have, you know, there's all these different collectibles is, I know, hard for people. And even we've talked about like projects. And I guess I didn't think about that until I'm a homeowner recently. So it's like, you know, whether it's outdoor projects that you started and didn't finish, or if you're a crafty person and you have like art things going on. So can you talk a little bit about the different categories and how people relate to that?
Absolutely. Everybody's different. Everybody decides what is hardest for them to get rid of. Pictures is probably a universal difficult thing to let go of. So I rarely work with clients on throwing out pictures or letting go of pictures. Very often there could be like a big oil or photograph of their family 50 years ago or 40 years ago. Everybody's in a leisure suit, and you know, and they've got curly hair, and it's awesome, and we laugh about it, and they go, "What do I do with this?" And I said, well, basically, if nobody wants that picture, we just take the picture out of the frame if the frame is still usable, and throw away the picture. We're not throwing away people, just pictures, just paper, just and we donate the frame. So
I suppose you could always digitize that silly memory.
Absolutely. You know, and that's some that I don't get into with my clients, is preserving their photographs and everything. I have colleagues who do that. And do that as that is their organizing niche, is photographs and preserving them and where they put them. And I have to say, I did that over the pandemic. I got all of my things that I think are precious digitized, not everything, but mostly digitized, but really got control over my computer, my phone. And now I know where everything's going, and it's simple and it's easy. So
family pictures, I think. And another thing, so I just saw a friend did a post a couple weeks ago about their children's art.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You know, so like another thing that you could potentially encapsulate digitally to be able to.
Yeah, because it's basically a picture. So I have an app on my phone called Scannable. And so I use Scannable for a number of things, and you can put them right into your pictures, and then I transfer them right into my forever.com, which is my way of holding on to all my pictures. So, and a lot of people have different accounts, but it's so easy to scan it, put it in my pictures, and transfer it to forever.com. And, you know, when my clients are dealing with kids who have art projects and everything, I would collect my sons on a daily, you know, he'd be bringing them home all the time, and we'd post them for a while, and then they go in a bottom drawer. So yearly we would go through them and then decide, is it worth keeping or not? Because everything's precious when it's coming through the door. Oh, absolutely, so cute. But it's not precious a year later. You're like, you know, this is not, you know, let's just let this piece go. And
he's developed artistically. That's the old work. There's much more important things going on now.
Exactly. My son always used to say, I'm not an artist, Mom. You just let it go. Get rid of it. So the things that I kept for him are basically things that have to do with a holiday or a season. And I get them out at that season, 1 or 2 things that he made. And, you know, the rest is, you know, so, but, doing it on a yearly basis is easier than a daily or weekly, because it's too hard then, but a yearly, and then you go through it. But now our parents are all of a sudden giving us this big pile of stuff. Look, this is all your stuff I saved that you made in grade school or whatever. Just, you can either say to your parents, I don't want any of it, just throw it. Now, if it's hard for them and they've taken all this time to collect it, then it is just take it.
Yeah.
And either look at it or throw it away yourself. If it's hard for them, just take it and throw it.
Just to that next step. At least then it's out of their house. Even if you just put it in the dumpster when you get home, they don't have to know that.
If you really want it thrown out, then throw it out yourself. If they're having a really hard time doing that, then just take it from them, and say, thanks, Mom, for doing all that. I'll look through it later. And if you never look at it, that's up to you, because now it's yours to do with what you want. So just because they collected it doesn't mean you have to keep any of it. You really don't. It's kind of an unwritten rule somewhere.
No obligation, right? That's part of that legacy, right? It's like you don't have to take it on if you don't choose to. I mean, sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you don't have a choice, but
right. They may pass and now we've got this house full of stuff, but then it is guess what? I know it's a lot of work. I know it's going to be exhausting, but you do have the choice of what to do with it without any refusal or arguments or anything. You just decide on what it is and you do it. So there are some advantages to that and some disadvantages. So, but if it's difficult for your parents, very, very difficult, try and make it as easy as possible. Take it away from them and say, okay, I'll take care of it, later on. Not badgering them. Why did you keep this? That's beside the point. They've kept it, that's water under the bridge. So making them feel bad about holding on to precious things from their children, no.
Not helping. It's not helping the situation. What about some of those like unfinished projects? So like it's still stuff, right? But it's stuff that could potentially serve a purpose or could at one time. So how do you approach some of those?
Oh, that's a hard one, because the realization of you never doing it again, or finishing something that you really did have every intention of finishing, has to come to closure. Am I going to do it? Am I not? Things like cross-stitching. I used to cross-stitch a lot. I made tons of things. And at some point I decided I'm not going to do this anymore. So letting all that go to a secondhand store that I know sells that stuff. There's a place in Ephrata called the Reuse It store that will take items that people will cross stitch or sew and fabric and all that kind of stuff. So when I decided that that wasn't part of my future, I'm not going to do this anymore, then I let it go. But there are some folks who have unfinished projects. I had a client, we came across 2 Christmas stockings that she had cross-stitched and put the name on, but never totally finished and made it into a stocking. But there it was, 30 years later, still in the box. And now what do we do with that? It's beautiful. So I took it home, took the name off the top and donated it, because somebody else is going to use that for their children.
Yeah, there was a lot of love put in that, right? And just because it's going to someone else, just take the name off. Why not?
You can do something else with it. So I want to let people know that it's okay to say, I'm not going to do that anymore. And just because you're not going to do it anymore doesn't mean that it's a lost thing. I'm a better person because I love doing it. I loved creating those things. Just because I'm not doing it anymore isn't necessarily a bad thing. I have other things I want to do. I have other ways to spend my time. And it's okay. But make sure you let go of that stuff before it's unusable to someone else. Maybe someone else will want to finish it. Maybe the pieces can be taken apart and reused for something else. Look at it in a different way. Try and picture it, someone else looking at it. What could they do with this piece now that I've decided I'm not going to put this together? I'm not going to make this crib into a chair. A lot of people do that, but what if someone else would want to do that? So find a place that will either take it or donate it or put it on Facebook Marketplace or put it on the free cycle, you know, could put it up there for free. Somebody will pick it up, whatever. There's so many ways to let go of those unfinished projects that someone else might want to finish it.
Right. So just because your specific intention of what was going to happen with that collection of stuff isn't going to come to fruition, and you've decided that, doesn't mean that someone else can't use that or have a different intention.
They may be just starting to do something like that. Somebody's
and they're
just
getting into it, and this is like the best thing ever to them, right? Like you might have exactly what they're looking for. Yeah.
Yep. They don't have to buy it new. They can start with things that are already started, or now I don't have to go and buy all this cross stitch DMC. Somebody else already has it in all these books. One of my clients had she just let go of a lot of that kind of thing, that she decided, I'm just not going to do this. There's other things that I want to do. It's just not this. So this is I'm ready to let this go. And what a gift, because now it's usable to someone else. And I researched it on eBay, and people are paying money for it. Not a lot of money, but they still want it. Somebody still wants it. Somebody still wants to pay money for it. So that's a good thing. That is a good thing. So it's time to let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did touch on a few specifics, but when people are ready and they're starting to separate out their stuff, and then trying to answer that where question a little more specifically, and obviously there's this level of responsibility. This is Earth Day. This is why I had you come here. This responsibility to be more eco-conscious, or be as eco-conscious as possible when we are getting rid of our things. So can you go through kind of the list of your favorite options, and maybe even a couple non-traditional ones that you know of that you can tell people about?
Okay. The biggest thing that a lot of my clients, like if they are wanting to let go of a big house full of stuff, furniture and a whole lot of things at the same time, an auctioneer is the best person to call to let go of a lot of things at one time. And there's also donation places that will come and take your items. Those are the places to take stuff in bulk. If it's single things, selling it on Facebook Marketplace or community yard sales, people still have yard sales. I was traveling through Wyomissing this morning. There was a huge neighborhood yard sale, stuff all over the place. And I think people were just looked so happy to be outside and enjoying the weather and just walking around. So the old-fashioned yard sale is still a good thing. But if it's a whole bunch of stuff, an auctioneer, that kind of thing, we sell on eBay for clients. So it's not hard to sell on eBay, but I would say Facebook Marketplace is even easier. You just post something, and if you don't want to do it or can't do it, ask someone else that does it. Ask around to your family. Somebody else could probably post it for you or whatever. That said, if you aren't sure what something's worth, take a look at eBay first and see if somebody's selling it, but then more importantly, did it sell? Not is someone selling something? There's tons of stuff out there for sale, but what you need to look at, completed sales. Did someone actually sell something like this, and for how much?
So you can use eBay essentially as a resource to see those things, and not necessarily that you're using it yourself, but you can see, okay, well, what's it worth? And is this thing sitting up here for like weeks on end, or is it there actually turnover?
Right. And is it a one of a kind, or are there millions out there? We found out that Beanie Babies are not one of a kind. There's a million out there. That's why they're not worth anything. And I think what the internet probably taught us is some disappointing things, that our stuff is not one of a kind. If it was manufactured after the 60s, it's probably not one of a kind. If it's manufactured before then, it might be, and it might be still worth something. Somebody still might want it. So that's the you can find things on eBay to figure out, is it or is it not one of a kind, worth it to somebody, or it's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it.
Exactly. That concept of value is so abstract. I
Mm.
know we found that when we were going through this home, my grandparents' home, and we had an auction, and some of the items that were like marbles, like were completely valuable. People were buying up marbles, and then there was some of the pieces of carnival glass that were going for $5. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy how it's really all about like what people are willing to spend for it, and you don't have any clue what that is until you start doing some research, or until the moment actually comes where you're offering it for sale. So
Right, and a lot of people say, well, when should I sell something? When is it worth the most money? It's when you are ready to sell it, that's when you sell it. Because this year, something's hot. Next year, it won't be.
right.
10 years ago, this was really hot. Now it's not. You can't try and guess what the market is going to want. Your stuff is only worth what someone's willing to pay. Just because it was worth something 5 years ago, I don't know. It may or may not be worth something now to someone else and willing
Right.
to pay money for it. So
And
that's the hard thing, holding on to it because you think it's really worth something.
right, we had talked about that too, like where that's one of the reasons it's so hard for people is that they remember how much they paid for something. So it's harder to be like, this was so expensive. But like then you said, ask the question, how long have you had it? Like that idea of depreciation, you know, like
you've had this for 30 years. You may have paid some $2,000 for something and you had it for 30 years. It's not going, you're not going to get $2,000 for it. Plus, you know, some people say I paid, $10,000 for this sofa and it went for $50. Well, that's because you can't sell a sofa these days because of, the fabric and the, people just are distrusting of where it's been and all that kind of stuff. Knowing what you paid for it and just letting go the fact that you're never going to get that back. Very few things will you get back what you paid for it. So that's very hard. And if somebody said, just offhand remark said to you, that's worth a lot. That's going to be worth a lot of money someday.
Doesn't mean
that's a killer.
Yeah. If you had that set in your head and now it's going to be just shattered.
It's just shattered, and an auctioneer will come and disappoint you every time. And I had an auctioneer say to us when we had to speak to our professional organizers, I disappoint people every day by telling them how little their stuff is worth. And that's just the reality of it.
It's like Antique Roadshow, right? Like most of the stuff that comes up there, but every once in a while there's a diamond in the rough. So sometimes it's worth looking into, but just be ready to be disappointed. Just be ready to be disappointed.
Yeah. If you really want to know what it's worth, do the research. Ask an auctioneer, go on eBay and find out.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good advice. Any other specific resources that you want to mention? We have it doesn't look like, I don't know. I'll ask one more time on Facebook if anyone has any questions. But
one of the places people say, should I call 1-800-GOT-JUNK? Should I call junk luggers? And absolutely, they are folks that will come and take a lot of stuff in a short period of time. They do the legwork, they do the heavy lifting. There's a lot to be said for the money that they get paid because guess what? You don't have to do it. And they will donate or try and sell and recoup some of the money that they use as expenses or whatever. But yes, they are a viable resource. They're not going to throw everything in the landfill. No, they are going to be ego responsible for it and try to get somebody to reuse it or repurpose it before they throw it in a landfill. So yes, they are places that are worth calling. And during the pandemic, it was so hard for any of my clients to find anybody to come get stuff. So that was one of the places that we would call, either junk luggers or 1-800-GOT-JUNK, because they were the only people that would actually come and take the stuff. But there's so many different places on my on my website on that handout to donate and recycle your crap in Berks County, and finding out, where can I take my stuff? Where can I really trust that they're going to reuse it or sell it? And Goodwill has such a good setup right now, because you just pull up and you put it either in the household bin or the clothing bin, And I remember when I traveled to the Harrisburg Goodwill, where they have their whole, that's where their administrative offices are.
Okay,
And
like headquarters kind of.
headquarters. So I got to see the whole process. And it was just amazing how they take care of everything and how different every Goodwill is, and what part of the community they serve depending upon where they're located.
Absolutely.
So all donate to the same thing. It depends on the needs of the community and what they do with the money that they get. So, but there's so many places to donate things in the areas. And then everybody has their own places to donate. Their churches either gather things, or they have places that they will donate things to, and then they ship them out to Dominican Republic or places that could use things. I have a friend who has her own charity who donates things to schools in Dominican Republic. So if you really really search around and look, do some research, you can find the people that need your stuff. And paying to have things shipped or paying to have things sent to those places. It's just part of the love of being eco-conscious and being a good steward of the earth, and not throwing it out and giving it to the people who really need it, because there's a lot of people who need, for instance, office supplies and school supplies. So many schools have nothing, but you can find places that will accept your items and then ship them to the places that need it. So there is no shortage of places that need your stuff.
Absolutely. I think it takes it's a responsibility almost to take a little time at least to do some research. And you've done a lot of work for people. I'm going to make sure that this resource guide is available to people, and that we have a link for people to follow to see it, because it is such a great, to even like, oh, right, I have all of these options.
Yeah.
And depending on what kind of stuff you have, and to match it up with donation places.
Gee, I forgot about Habitat Restore. Gee, I could take my, my sink that I pulled out and take it to Habitat Restore, because they're going to put it into another house. Or, I pulled out this cabinet that's perfectly usable, but I'm going to remodel. Let's take it there. So there are places, so many places that could take your stuff. Just do a little research, do a little legwork, and if they'll come to pick it up, call them, see if they'll come pick it up. If they won't, find somebody who'll take it. It does take a little time, but it's all part of being a good steward of the earth, and knowing that we're not going to throw it out just because it's too much trouble. It's not too much trouble. It's the planet.
Yeah. You can feel better about it then, once you take that little extra work and know that it's going somewhere where someone else is it's gonna live on.
It's gonna live on. It's gonna be upcycled. Yeah, I just love that part of it, knowing that I didn't throw it in the trash. And when I do find a home for new things for my clients' stuff, or I make sure I tell them where I took it, or tell them who bought it, or when they sell things on eBay that they thought were totally worthless to someone who paid $20 for something that they thought we were going to throw out. It's really satisfying to them to know that somebody else is going to use their stuff.
Yeah, it's that whole old someone's trash is someone else's treasure kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I had no idea someone would even want this,
Right.
Yeah, a lot of
somebody
people,
out there does. Chances are.
Chances are there's probably somebody who wants your stuff. Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had yesterday we had a panel on eco fashion, and we were talking about upcycling a lot. And someone mentioned something to me that I had completely forgotten about as an option, maybe for people, is and you could take it other than clothing, but clothing swaps, where you maybe just get a small group of friends together, and you bring the stuff you don't want in your closet anymore and bring it out, and everybody just you pick somebody's house, and you just strew everything across the lawn and then it's like a free
Yeah.
for all. But I
Yeah,
feel like you could probably do that with anything
I
you
think
could bring in a box.
I think they used to call those bitch and swap. You go take your stuff and you know, yak for a while, and everybody would be like, you know what, I could really use that. And, you know, and then when whatever's left, you just donate, you know. How I used to love the Goodwill Runway show, that I used to be on the committee for that. And we used
Very
to
cool.
upcycle the clothing. We would make something and wear it and upcycle it for that evening. And then we'd have a fashion show with upcycled, or not even upcycled, just the stuff you could buy at Goodwill. That was so much fun. My mom took us to the Goodwill since we were little girls, and I didn't like it then. I didn't want to shop at the Goodwill. I wanted to go to the mall like everyone else, but we couldn't afford that. So we went to the Goodwill, and now, even as an adult, I'll go to a secondhand store first before I buy anything online, because I think I might be able to find it there first before I even buy it new. I'd rather buy it used first before I buy it new. And my son's the same way. So he's just as eco-conscious as I am. You know, when you bring them up young, it becomes a part of their life.
Absolutely. It's just back to that full circle. It's that lifestyle and the way that you think about it, the way you think about stuff in general, your stuff, how much you bring in, how much you take out, how you get rid of it. But I think that really the biggest takeaway is that idea of, especially if you're my generation or younger, it's that maintenance piece of like keeping track, like every year or every quarter, or depending on what the items are, just, go through stuff every once in a while, and then it won't be so overwhelming, right?
We used to do it seasonally. You get the clothing out that you did for last year, you're getting it out, and then you decide, the stuff that you're putting away, did I even wear this? Did I even, going through your clothing and making sure that that the Americans are the biggest donator or throwaway of clothing. It's called fast fashion, and it's not.
That's what we talked about yesterday. Yep.
Not a happy thing. It's not a good thing. We're ruining the economy and of foreign countries who used to take pride in making clothing and selling clothing to their own people, but now we are throwing all our clothing onto them, and then that's what their people are buying, and then they're putting their small businesses out of business because they're going to buy our leftover stuff, our stuff that didn't.
And then there's social aspects that are really awful about it. Yeah, it's bad, but it is something just for people to keep in mind, right? That every time they choose to bring something into their house, or how they choose to get it out of their house, it all makes an impact.
Yeah, maybe one in, one out. Thinking that way, one in, one out. If you're going to get somebody a new iPod or a new iPhone, where's the old one? Let's either
what's happening to it,
or recycling it, or just throwing it in the garage or in a box or whatever is not to decide later what to do with it. Well, guess what? That becomes this huge tangle of cords and screens, and that, oh boy, now what do I do with all of this stuff? And it takes hours instead of building it into your life to decide what to do with it. No, we're not buying a new one until we decide what we're doing with the old one. It's just the way our family is. That's what we're going to do. We always had a box or a bag in a corner of a room that, when you don't want something, just throw it in there, and when it's full, we'll take it to the Goodwill, and then we'll start over again. So
it's all about those habits, just like instilling them. That's like the default. That's what you do. You just have that donation box somewhere, maybe it's in the garage, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just ongoing.
That's going to go out. Yeah, there you go. Just put it in that box, and then we'll, when it's full, we'll take it away. But taking my son along to drop off the clothing he was donating to the friends that knew they would love his Penn State apparel. It was really fun, and he got a kick out of that. So he knew what it was like to let things go that he didn't wear anymore to people who would appreciate it.
That's great. Well, we're coming to the end of our hour here. We didn't have we had a couple people watching and that one comment, which was nice. But this is being recorded. So anyone who watches it on Facebook later, we're going to have it there. And we're also going to have it on the Earth Day YouTube channel. So Vali, thank you so much for spending this time with me this morning.
You're so welcome. It's always a pleasure. That went so fast. Please, any questions, send them to me at my on my email, vali@thecluttercrew.com. Any question anybody has on what can I do with this, or how do I get rid of this, or do you think this might be worth something? How can I find out? That kind of thing. Anything.
That's awesome.
I'm happy to field those questions.
Thank you. And thank you for the work you do. I think people underestimate how much taking care of this aspect of their life can be so healing and relieving.
Yeah.
So I think it's a huge service that you're supplying to people that they might not even realize how wonderful they could feel if they start tackling this.
Yeah.
And it's never too late, and it's never too early.
Today.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you so much, Vali. I will talk to you soon.
Happy Earth Day.
Thank you. You too. Talk to you soon. Bye.